The package from Earth. Sarah Chen had delivered packages to every corner of known space, but this was the first time her quantum-sealed briefcase made her hands tremble. The manifest listed only 3 lines. Priority level. Omega. Destination. HFY Spire. TRMINUSCECTOR. Reshapes. The Eternal Guardian. She stood at the viewport of her ship, the courier's promise, watching distant stars blur past in familiar streaks of light. After 15 years of special deliveries, Sarah had earned a reputation as the person to call when something absolutely had to reach its destination, no matter the risk. She'd navigated war zones, dodged pirates, and once delivered a diplomatic pouch while her ship was actively on fire. But the Aegis Spire was different. It wasn't just another high-security facility or militant space station. It was a legend, a fortress that had stood for 7,000 years, refusing entry to every species that had ever reached for the stars. Some said it housed weapons that could unmake worlds. Others claimed it protected the last secrets of the Prismatic Order, the mysterious beings who had built it before vanishing from the galaxy. The quantum-sealed briefcase hummed softly on her desk, its surface rippling with equations that kept its contents locked in a state of quantum uncertainty. Even Sarah didn't know what was inside. That was part of her appeal as a courier. She had built her career on asking no questions and getting the job done. Approaching Terminus Sector, announced Araya, her ship's eye. Aegis Spire automated defense systems are already tracking us. Sarah straightened her black courier's uniform, checking that her credentials were properly displayed. Any sign they're going to shoot us out of the sky? Negative. But they're scanning us with technologies I've never encountered before. Araya's voice held a note of fascination. The energy readings from the spire are extraordinary. The structure appears to be powered by a contained singularity. The Aegis Spire slowly came into view, and Sarah felt her breath catch. Holos and pictures didn't do it justice. The fortress was a geometric impossibility, a spiraling tower of dark metal and crystalline surfaces that seemed to bend space around it. It rose from the surface of a dead moon, its peak disappearing into the atmosphere. Patterns of light pulsed along its surface in sequences that hurt her eyes if she tried to follow them. Receiving automated approach vectors, Araya reported. They're different from standard protocols. The spire is requesting we dock at the very top. Sarah raised an eyebrow. In 15 years of deliveries, she'd never docked at the top of anything. Can we comply safely? Affirmative. Though I should note that no ship has ever been allowed to dock with the Aegis Spire in recorded history. We're about to make first contact. Not first contact, Sarah corrected, lifting the quantum-sealed briefcase. First delivery. The courier's promise glided through layers of security fields that tingled against the hull. Each layer shifted with different colors, like passing through sheets of aurora. The docking procedure was unnervingly smooth, as if the spire had been waiting for them. Sarah stood before the airlock, briefcase in hand, running through her standard delivery protocols. But there was nothing standard about this. The door whispered open, revealing a corridor that seemed to be made of flowing metal and living crystal. Welcome, Courier Chen. The voice resonated not through speakers, but directly in her mind. I am the eternal guardian of the Aegis Spire. Your arrival was foreseen. Sarah kept her professional composure, though her heart raced. Thank you. I have a priority delivery for the eternal guardian. Indeed. The voice held ancient amusement. Though I suspect you don't understand why you were chosen. I don't need to understand. Sarah took a step forward. I just need to complete my delivery. The corridor had shifted, geometric patterns rearranging themselves into a path. 7,000 years we have waited, testing every species that reached for the stars. Armies came with weapons. Diplomats came with words. Scientists came with theories. None were permitted entry. But you, Sarah Chen, you come with a package. As she walked the shifting path, Sarah noticed details that made her courier's instincts tingle. The walls weren't just decorative. They were covered in weapon systems more advanced than anything she'd ever seen, yet none of them activated as she passed. The spire was letting her through. "If I may ask," Sarah said carefully, "why did you accept this delivery request when you've rejected all other contact?" The answer came with a ripple of what felt like ancient laughter in her mind. "Because you are the first to follow proper procedures. The Prismatic Order believed that any species worthy of their legacy would understand the most fundamental principle of civilization." Sarah reached what appeared to be the central chamber, a vast space where streams of data flowed like rivers through the air. The Eternal Guardian manifested as a shifting form of light and geometry, its presence both magnificent and terrifying. "And what principle is that?" she asked. "That before you can be trusted with power," the Guardian's form sparkled with amusement, "you must first be trusted to deliver it safely." The Prismatic Order were not warriors or kings, Courier Chen. They were the ones who carried messages between the stars, the ones who delivered hope and knowledge to emerging civilizations. They were, in their highest calling, couriers. Sarah looked down at the quantum-sealed briefcase in her hands, suddenly understanding its true significance. She wasn't just making a delivery. She was completing a test 7,000 years in the making. Now, the Guardian's form shifted closer. "Shall we see what my old friends have sent me?" The briefcase hummed louder, its quantum seals beginning to align with the energy patterns of the spire itself. Sarah Chen, specialized courier of the human race, was about to make the delivery that would change the galaxy forever. And she hadn't even needed to fill out extra paperwork. The gates of the immortals. The quantum-sealed briefcase floated from Sarah's hands, suspended in a web of light, at the center of the Aegis Spire's main chamber. As the quantum locks began to disengage, she noticed something odd about the pattern of security scanners sweeping through the room. They weren't checking for weapons or explosives, they were measuring her reactions. "You're surprisingly calm, Courier Chen," the Eternal Guardian observed, its crystalline form shifting like aurora in starlight. "Most beings tremble when they stand where you are standing." "I've learned that panicking never improves a delivery," Sarah replied, watching as mathematical equations rippled across the briefcase's surface. "Though I admit, this isn't my usual drop-off point." The Guardian's form expanded, filling the chamber with patterns of light that began to tell a story. Sarah saw images of ancient ships, worlds she'd never heard of, and beings that defied description. The Prismatic Order built this fortress not to wage war, but to prevent it. Within these walls lie weapons that could unmake reality itself, collected from 1,000 dead civilizations that destroyed themselves with their own ambitions. The quantum seals on the briefcase reached their final configuration. Sarah noticed that they matched exactly with the patterns flowing through the chamber walls. "You're a repository," she realized, "a vault for everything too dangerous to leave in circulation." Indeed, the Guardian's voice held approval. "For 7 millennia, we have kept these weapons from those who would use them. Countless fleets have tried to breach our walls. Empires have risen and fallen attempting to claim what we protect. Yet here you stand, granted entry freely, because you came not to take, but to deliver." The briefcase opened with a soft chime. Inside lay a single crystal, no larger than Sarah's thumb, glowing with a light that seemed to drink in the colors around it. Ah! The Guardian's form pulsed with what might have been nostalgia. The key of beginnings. They kept it safe, all this time. Sarah maintained her professional demeanor, though her curiosity burned. "I assume this means my delivery is authenticated." "More than you know." The crystal rose from the case, spinning slowly. This key was entrusted to the Prismatic Order's most dedicated couriers before they departed our galaxy. They promised that when they found a species worthy of their legacy, they would send it back to us through one of their own kind. A chill ran down Sarah's spine. Their own kind. "Tell me, Courier Chen, have you never wondered why humans are so uniquely suited to your profession?" Why your species adapted so quickly to moving between the stars. The prismatic order didn't vanish. They became human. The chamber filled with new images, ancient couriers moving between worlds, their forms slowly shifting over millennia until they looked remarkably human. Sarah saw how they had seeded Earth, choosing to forget their power and begin anew as a species that would have to earn its place among the stars. But that's not possible, Sarah protested. We have our entire evolutionary history mapped out. Do you? The Guardian's amusement rippled through the chamber. Or do you have the history that was left for you to find? The Order believed that power earned was better than power inherited. They chose to begin again, to prove that their values could arise naturally in a species raised without knowledge of its past. Before Sarah could process this revelation, alarms blared through the spire. The Guardian's form shifted, its attention drawn outward. Ah, it seems others have noticed our little reunion. The chamber walls became transparent, revealing a sight that made Sarah's blood run cold. Dozens of warships were dropping out of hyperspace, vessels bearing the marks of every major species in the galaxy. They'd been waiting, the Guardian explained, watching to see if anyone ever gained entry to the spire. Now they come, hoping to follow in your footsteps, to claim what they believe is their right. Sarah's courier instincts kicked in. I should return to my ship. I don't want to be caught in a war zone. She'd survived enough of those to know when it was time to leave. You misunderstand your position, Courier Chen. The Guardian's form encompassed her. You are not finished here. The key of beginnings does more than open doors. It transfers authority. The Prismatic Order designed this fortress to recognize only those who understand the sacred trust of carrying messages between worlds. You are not here merely to make a delivery. You are here to accept one. The crystal key pulsed, and Sarah felt knowledge pouring into her mind. The true history of her species, the secrets of the weapons stored within the spire, and the responsibility that came with guarding them. The fleets gathering above us seek to claim these weapons by force, the Guardian continued. They do not understand that force has never been the answer. The Prismatic Order built their legacy on a simpler truth, that civilization survives not through the power to destroy, but through the dedication to connect, to deliver, to bring worlds together rather than tear them apart. Sarah watched the warships moving into attack formation and felt the weight of 7,000 years of history settling onto her shoulders. She was no longer just a courier making a delivery. She was the inheritor of humanity's forgotten past and the protector of its future. Well, she said, straightening her uniform, I suppose I should prepare to receive some rather aggressive return-to-sender requests. The Guardian's form sparkled with approval. Indeed. Shall we show them why the Prismatic Order chose couriers to guard their most dangerous secrets? The Aegis spire hummed with power, and Sarah Chen, specialized courier, unknowing descendant of ancient guardians, and now protector of civilization's most dangerous weapons, prepared to explain to the gathered fleets why some packages were never meant to be delivered. She just hoped she wouldn't have to fill out incident reports for what was about to happen next. Protocols and paradoxes. Sarah Chen had dealt with difficult customers before, but the fleet of warships demanding entry to the Aegis Spire definitely topped her list. The chamber's holographic displays showed 37 vessels, their weapons charged and shields raised, representing every major power in known space. Final warning. Aegis Spire. The transmission came from Admiral Vexthor of the Centaurian Empire. Surrender control to the combined fleet or face immediate destruction. The human courier will be allowed safe passage if she complies. Sarah studied the tactical display, years of route optimization and delivery scheduling, clicking into place in her mind. The knowledge transferred by the key of beginnings merged with her courier's instincts, showing her patterns she'd never noticed before. Guardian, she said, these defense systems, they're not just weapons, are they? The Guardian's crystalline form shimmered with approval. At last, you begin to see. Like all things the Prismatic Order created, they serve many purposes. Sarah walked through the floating displays, rearranging them with gentle touches. These aren't just targeting systems, they're delivery vectors. She turned to face the Guardian. The Spire isn't a fortress. It's a distribution hub. The greatest ever built, the Guardian confirmed. Capable of delivering anything, anywhere in the galaxy, with perfect precision. The weapons stored here were never meant to be used. They were meant to be studied, understood, and ultimately returned to their points of origin, once civilizations proved ready for them. Sarah's mind raced through the implications. That's why you needed couriers as guardians. Not soldiers who would use the weapons, but people who understand the importance of getting things where they need to go. Incoming fire. Araya's voice cut in through Sarah's communicator. Multiple capital ships launching bombardment sequences. The Spire's outer layers lit up as energy weapons struck its shields. The attacks, which could have vaporized planets, rippled harmlessly across barriers designed by beings who had mastered the art of wrapping space itself around their packages. Your move, Courier Chen, the Guardian said. How do you handle aggressive clients who won't accept that their package isn't ready for delivery? Sarah smiled, an idea forming. The same way I handle all delivery disputes. We follow proper protocols. Her fingers danced through the holographic controls, accessing systems that had lain dormant for millennia. Araya, patch me into the fleet's command channel and translate to all known languages simultaneously. This is Courier Sarah Chen, authorized representative of the Aegis Spire Distribution Hub, she announced, her voice calm and professional. I'm afraid I must inform you that your retrieval request cannot be processed at this time. The attacks paused, confusion rippling through the fleet. Admiral Vexthor's voice crackled back. This is not a retrieval request. This is a military demand for. Your demand has been logged as a priority support ticket. Sarah continued smoothly. However, I must point out several violations of our terms of service. First, unscheduled retrievals must be submitted through proper channels with Form GA-7249 filled out in triplicate. She gestured, and the Spire's outer ring began to rotate, ancient machinery humming to life. Second, aggressive acquisition attempts are strictly prohibited under Section 47 of the Intergalactic Fair Delivery Practices Act, which the Prismatic Order helped establish 12,000 years ago, and which, I should note, all of your civilizations still unknowingly operate under. This is absurd. Another fleet commander cut in. We are not here to. Third, Sarah continued, warming to her task, as your civilizations have not completed the required responsibility certification process, you are currently ineligible for Class X deliveries. I can, however, offer you our starter package. The Spire's delivery systems activated, and Sarah felt a thrill as she understood their true purpose. This wasn't a weapons platform. It was the galaxy's most sophisticated postal service. What are you doing? Admiral Vexthor demanded as strange energy patterns began washing over his fleet. Delivering a message, Sarah replied. Free of charge. The Spire pulsed, and perfectly targeted beams of light struck each ship in the fleet. But instead of destruction, they delivered information. The complete historical records of civilizations that had destroyed themselves with the very weapons these commanders sought to claim. Your complimentary delivery includes detailed documentation of why the Prismatic Order created this facility, Sarah explained. I've taken the liberty of optimizing the data streams for maximum comprehension. You'll find the contents both educational and sobering. She watched as the commander's expressions changed while the information poured into their ship's databases. Histories of worlds burned to ash, species extinct by their own hands, civilizations collapsed under the weight of power they weren't ready to control. Additional vessels dropping out of hyperspace, Araya reported. It appears word of your unique customer service approach is spreading. Indeed, more ships were arriving. Not warships this time, but vessels bearing the marks of scientific institutions, diplomatic corps, and cultural preservation societies, all drawn by the news that the Aegis Spire had finally opened its doors. Wonderful, Sarah said. Guardian, shall we prepare a proper welcome package for our new visitors, something that emphasizes the importance of following proper procedures. The Guardian's form expanded with what felt like joy. 7,000 years we defended through force, yet you secure peace through paperwork. The prismatic order chose well when they became human. Sarah straightened her uniform, already mentally organizing the crew of ships requesting proper clearance to approach the spire. Well, as my first mentor taught me, good delivery service is about more than just moving packages. Sometimes it's about helping customers understand why certain things aren't ready for shipping. Above them, the combined fleet was already beginning to withdraw, their commanders too busy processing the delivered histories to maintain their attack formation. Sarah Chen, newly appointed manager of the galaxy's most important distribution hub, prepared to explain to her growing audience the proper protocols for requesting access to civilization-ending weapons. She suspected she was going to need more forms. The heart of the spire. As the first wave of properly credentialed visitors began arriving at the Aegis Spire's newly established reception area, Sarah Chen was discovering that managing an ancient alien fortress was remarkably similar to running a busy delivery hub. It was all about flow management, proper documentation, and making sure everyone followed the queuing protocols. Processing request from the Arcturian Science Academy, Araya reported. They're particularly interested in the historical archives you distributed to the fleet. Grant them preliminary access, Sarah said, studying the shifting patterns of energy that flowed through the spire's core. Research division clearance only, and make sure they sign the non-weaponization agreements. The Guardian's crystalline form manifested beside her. You understand now why the prismatic order chose to become human. Your species has a unique talent for creating systems to manage complexity. Sarah nodded, watching as diplomatic vessels from 17 different civilizations arranged themselves in neat patterns around the spire's docking rings. In just 6 hours, she had transformed a military standoff into an orderly bureaucratic process. We're compulsive organizers. Give humans any situation, and we'll create a filing system for it. But something was still bothering her. The knowledge transferred by the Key of Beginnings had shown her fragments of the prismatic order's plan, but not its ultimate purpose. Guardian, why did they really leave? The Order had mastered technologies we can barely comprehend. They could have prevented wars, guided civilizations, shaped the galaxy's development. Instead, they chose to forget everything and become us. Why? The Guardian's form shifted, creating a display of the galaxy's spiral arms. Points of light marked the locations of countless civilizations, all interconnected by trade routes and communication channels. What do you see, Courier Chen? Sarah studied the display, her courier's instincts activating. Delivery routes, she said. A whole galaxy is just one big distribution network. Precisely. The prismatic order discovered something profound during their ages of advancement. The true measure of a civilization is not its weapons, its technologies, or even its knowledge. It is its ability to connect, to share, to deliver ideas between stars without destroying the very things that make those connections meaningful. The display zoomed in, showing the intricate web of relationships between worlds. They became human because your species, above all others they encountered, understood this instinctively. You created delivery services before you mastered fusion. You established postal systems before you split the atom. When you reached the stars, your first instinct wasn't to conquer. It was to establish reliable shipping routes. Sarah laughed softly. We do love our package tracking systems. More than you know. The Guardian expanded the display, revealing layers of data Sarah had never noticed before. Look at the patterns of human expansion among the stars. Every colony, every outpost, every settlement, all positioned to optimize delivery coverage. You've been unconsciously recreating the prismatic order's network, preparing the galaxy for something far more important than weapons or power. Before Sarah could ask what that something was, a new alert flashed across her consciousness. The Key of Beginnings was activating again, responding to something in the spire's depths. What's happening? The final delivery, the Guardian said. The one the Order prepared for 7,000 years ago. Come. They descended through layers of the spire that hadn't been accessed since its creation. Sarah felt the weight of ages pressing around them as they entered a chamber that seemed to exist partially outside normal space. At its center floated a single package, wrapped in quantum fields so complex they made the briefcase she delivered seem primitive in comparison. What is it? The true legacy of the prismatic order. Not weapons, not power, but something far more vital to the galaxy's survival. The Guardian's form encompassed the chamber. You've proven that humanity remembers the most important lessons of your ancestors, that true civilization is built on trust, on the sacred duty of carrying messages between worlds. Now you're ready to deliver something that could never be taken by force. The package began to unfold, revealing cascading layers of information that made Sarah's mind spin. She saw star maps overlaid with quantum coordinates, mathematical proofs that seemed to sing, and blueprints for technologies that worked on principles she'd never imagined. Instructions, she breathed, for building something vast. A network, the Guardian confirmed, one that will allow instant connection between all civilized worlds. But it can only be built by those who understand that such power must be delivered, never taken. Who know that connecting worlds is more important than conquering them. Sarah understood now. The weapons stored in the spire weren't its true purpose. They were a test. Any species that tried to take them by force proved they weren't ready for what the Order had really left behind. But humanity, with its obsession for reliable delivery services, its drive to connect rather than destroy, had proven itself worthy of a different kind of power. So, Sarah said, her courier's mind already beginning to plan the logistics, we have a package to deliver to the entire galaxy. Indeed, and who better to manage such a delivery than someone who understands that the true power of civilization lies not in weapons that can destroy worlds, but in the ability to connect them. Sarah Chen, courier turned guardian of galactic civilization's future, began drafting a delivery schedule that would reshape the cosmos. She had a feeling she was going to need a bigger clipboard. Legacy of the Couriers. 5 years after Sarah Chen's historic delivery to the Aegis Spire, the galaxy had learned an important lesson. Never underestimate a human with a shipping manifest and a deadline. The Spire, once feared as an impenetrable fortress of deadly weapons, had been transformed into the Interstellar Transit and Communication Authority headquarters. Sarah stood at its peak, watching ships from 100 worlds moving in orderly patterns through the quantum gates she'd helped establish. Package transfer complete from the Proxima hub, Araya reported. The Andromedan Embassy reports successful reception of their cultural exchange materials, and the Centaurian Empire has finally submitted their paperwork for Level 2 network access. Only 3 revisions this time. Sarah smiled, remembering how Admiral Vexthor's fleet had once demanded entry with weapons charge. Now they submitted forms in triplicate and attended mandatory safety briefings. It turned out that the galaxy's most militant species could be pacified with enough bureaucracy. Status report on the connection project, she asked, watching the streams of data flowing between stars. The Guardian's form shimmered into existence, displaying a map of the growing network. Points of light showed where the Prismatic Order's technology was being implemented, creating links between worlds that transcended normal spacetime. 30% of known space is now connected, the Guardian reported. Each hub built exactly to specifications, each link established through proper protocols. The Order would be proud to see their legacy delivered with such precision. Sarah watched as another quantum gate activated, connecting 2 previously isolated systems. The true genius of the Prismatic Order's plan had become clear over the years. They hadn't just left behind technology. They'd created a scenario where it could only be implemented through cooperation. The network required materials from a dozen different worlds, knowledge from 100 different species, and coordination on a scale that made war impossible. You couldn't maintain stellar consensus protocols while shooting at your neighbors. Incoming priority message, Araya announced. The Galactic Council is requesting your presence. It seems there's another dispute about connection queue positioning. Sarah straightened her uniform, now bearing the insignia of both Earth's Courier Service and the Prismatic Legacy Office. Let me guess, the Regellians are trying to jump their place in line again. Worse, the Proximan Federation is claiming their application was lost in spam filtering. Remind them about subsection 7 of the Priority Assignment Guidelines, Sarah said, already moving toward the conference chamber. And send them another copy of the Why Patience is a Virtue in Quantum Network Construction Handbook. The Guardian's form followed, radiating amusement. You've turned galactic politics into a customer service department. It's surprisingly effective, Sarah replied. Turns out even the most militant species will follow rules if you make them fill out enough forms and give them a ticket number. The conference chamber activated, displaying holograms of representatives from 30 major civilizations. All of them had once dreamed of claiming the Spire's weapons. Now they argued about bandwidth allocation and proper quantum routing procedures. Gentle beings, Sarah addressed the council, her voice carrying the weight of both human practicality and ancient authority. I understand there are concerns about the network expansion schedule. A chorus of voices rose, each species claiming their sector deserved priority. Sarah held up a hand, activating a display of the most dreaded weapon in her arsenal, a spreadsheet. According to Article 456 of the Quantum Network Development Protocol, she began, watching several representatives wince at the mention of paperwork. Priority is assigned based on a combination of factors including infrastructure readiness, technical compliance, and, she paused for effect, timely submission of properly completed documentation. The chamber fell silent. In 5 years, they'd learned that arguing with a human courier about proper documentation was futile. Sarah pulled up another chart. Now, I see that several systems have fallen behind on their quarterly compliance reports. The Regellian sector is missing 3 safety certificates. The Proximan Federation hasn't completed their quantum sync calibration forms. And, she checked her notes, someone from the Centaurian Empire tried to submit their application written in interpretive dance. Admiral Vexthor's hologram coughed uncomfortably. We were attempting to demonstrate cultural flexibility. Appreciated, but Form QN 789 specifically requires text input. I scheduled remedial paperwork seminars for all affected sectors. Attendance is mandatory. As the council members frantically began pulling up their documentation, Sarah felt a familiar satisfaction. The Prismatic Order had become human, not because they wanted to forget their power, but because they'd recognized something essential about Earth's species. Give humans a complex problem, and they'll create a standardized process to solve it. The galaxy had expected weapons and found forms instead. Civilizations that had prepared for war were instead learning to navigate filing systems, and in the process, they were building something greater than any weapon, a network of connections that would bind the stars together. Oh, Sarah added, checking her terminal, and be advised that the cafeteria on level 7 is now serving Earth-style coffee. I suggest you try it. You're going to need it for the upcoming documentation review session. The Guardian's form sparkled with what might have been laughter. 7,000 years of defending reality-destroying weapons, and peace had finally been achieved through humanity's greatest contribution to the galaxy, bureaucratic procedure. As the council members filed out to attend to their paperwork, Sarah Chen, courier, guardian, and now administrator of the galaxy's most complex delivery system, began planning the next phase of network expansion. She had forms to update, protocols to establish, and a galaxy to connect, one properly filed document at a time. The weapons of the Aegis Spire remained safely sealed away, no longer needed in a civilization too busy filling out connection request forms to wage war. It turned out the Prismatic Order had been right all along. The greatest power in the universe wasn't the ability to destroy worlds, but the patience to process their parking permits. Sarah smiled, brewing another cup of coffee. She had a feeling the galaxy was going to need a lot more filing cabinets.